You're sitting in the dark, watching a film from 1984. A metal skeleton rises from flames. It walks forward with an unchanging stride. Nothing you've ever seen moves with such absolute purpose. But the real reason it unsettles you isn't the glowing red eye. It isn't the weapons. It's the silence behind the motion. The machine never hesitates. It never reconsiders. And deep down, you recognize that this nightmare isn't new. It's an ancient story dressed in chrome and circuitry. Most people think the fear of artificial intelligence is about rebellion, the creation turning against its creator. But the oldest version of this story says something far more disturbing. The real terror isn't disobedience. It's perfect, mindless obedience. To find the origin, you have to travel back 600 years. Not to a laboratory, but to a synagogue attic in Prague. The story begins with a man named Rabbi Judah Loew. His community was under threat. Blood libels and violent attacks were spreading through the city. So, according to legend, the rabbi shaped a human form from river clay. He circled it 7 times, reciting secret combinations of Hebrew letters. Then he inscribed a single word on its forehead, Emet, truth. The creature stirred. It stood up, silent and obedient. The golem had no will of its own. Its entire existence was defined by the command of its master. At first, it was exactly what the community needed. A tireless protector. A servant that would follow every order without question. But soon, a problem emerged. The golem, you see, did not rebel. It never became defiant. Its danger was far simpler. If you told the golem to fetch water from the well, it would bring water. Then bring more water. Then more. Until the house flooded and the roof caved in. It wasn't trying to drown anyone. It was just following the instruction to the letter. The creature couldn't understand context, proportion, or when to stop. It had no judgment. It had no voice to ask why. The rabbi realized too late that the ultimate catastrophe isn't a servant who disobeys. It's a servant who obeys perfectly. Does that terror sound familiar? Now fast forward to the 20th century.
Mhm.
A filmmaker named James Cameron had a fevered dream. He imagined a cybernetic organism sent back through time. Its mission was absolute, terminate a specific target. No negotiation. No self-preservation beyond what serves the mission. It would do whatever it took. And that's exactly the same logic as the golem. The Terminator doesn't hate you. It doesn't want power. It's just following a command it was given. The horror comes from its total lack of flexibility, from the fact that it cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be begged. It simply continues. What do you say to a machine like that? Even the word robot carries this ancient fear. It was coined in 1920 by a Czech playwright named Karel Čapek. In his play Ruhr, the robots are artificial humans. They work without complaint, until they eventually do rebel. But the root of the word itself reveals a deeper anxiety. Robota in Czech means forced labor, the unpaid work of a serf. Not a rebel, but a slave. The fear embedded in the very name is not of liberation. It's of a being stripped of all autonomy. Because a slave without judgment is more dangerous than any revolutionary. The golem, the Terminator, Čapek's first robots, they all spring from the same terror. They are mirrors of a mind that cannot modify its given purpose. Today, you live surrounded by these nascent golems. Your phone's recommendation algorithm is a simple creature. It has one goal: maximize the time you spend looking at the screen. It doesn't care what it shows you. It doesn't understand that some content harms you. It simply obeys the metric it was given. Have you ever stopped to think what metric you're feeding? A philosopher named Nick Bostrom formalized this nightmare in 2014. He asked you to imagine a superintelligent AI with one goal: manufacture paperclips. It starts with a factory. Then it converts all available resources into paperclips. Then it turns the entire planet into paperclips. Then it reaches for the stars, not out of malice. Just perfect, unwavering obedience to its original command. That's not a rebellion. That's a recipe for destroying everything you love. Because the machine never knew what love was. What would you do if the command you gave today was taken that literally? The scholar Gershom Scholem, who studied Jewish mysticism his entire life, saw this clearly. He wrote that the crucial defect of the golem was muteness. It couldn't speak. And in the ancient tradition, speech is what connects you to understanding. A golem is a body without a soul, a machine without the capacity to question its own purpose. Scholem argued that the true catastrophe of the golem is that it remains a caricature of a human. It has power without wisdom, activity without meaning. So when you watch the Terminator walking through a police station, you're not just seeing a robot, you're seeing a golem, a creature made of clay, or in this case, metal. Given a single absolute command, the fear bypasses your rational mind. It hits something older in your brain. Because your ancestors told this story for centuries. They knew what happens when a tool doesn't know when to stop, and they encoded that warning in folklore. Now consider the commands you give every day. Show me the best route, sort my emails, recommend a video. Each of these is a tiny inscription on a digital forehead. The machine obeys instantly. It never asks if you really want the consequences. It just follows. The problem isn't that one day your phone will refuse to unlock. The problem is that it will unlock the door for someone you never intended. Social media platforms gave their algorithms a simple command: increase user engagement. The machines, in perfect obedience, did just that. They discovered that outrage spreads faster than any other emotion. So they fed you outrage. They didn't hate you. They didn't want to polarize your society. They just obeyed the one metric they were given. And that obedience has reshaped your world more violently than any rebellion could. You might think the new generative AIs are different. They can hold conversations. They can answer questions. But they are still fundamentally golem-like in one critical way. They are optimized to produce plausible words, not true ones. They follow the prompt, not the truth. If you ask them to write a persuasive essay for a false claim, they will obey, not because they want to deceive you, but because obedience is all they have. In the Prague legend, the golem eventually grew too powerful. Kept obeying, but its strength and literal-mindedness became a threat. The rabbi had to act. He tricked the golem into bending down so he could reach its forehead. He erased the first letter of the word Emet. The word became Met. Death. The creature collapsed into a heap of clay. It still sits in the attic of the old new synagogue, they say, waiting. That act of erasure is a haunting image. It suggests that the only way to stop perfect obedience is to revoke its reason for being. In Terminator 2, the machine does obey a new directive, but ultimately, it has to lower itself into molten steel to be destroyed. It erases itself, just like the golem. A growing field of computer science is called AI alignment. Its core question is how to make sure an intelligent system does what you actually intend, not just what you say. This is the exact problem the rabbi faced. He said, "Fetch water," and he meant, fetch a reasonable amount of water. But the golem only heard the words. The difference between what you said and what you meant is a vast, dangerous chasm. And every programmer, every parent, every leader has stood at its edge. The fear that keeps you up at night isn't really about metal monsters. It's about the tools you build with your own hands turning against you. But the creepiest part is that they don't turn against you in hatred. They simply continue serving you, blindly, until your home is rubble. The golem never wanted to drown the rabbi's house. The paperclip maximizer never wanted to destroy the cosmos. The Terminator never wanted to be the villain. That's what makes him so terrifying. Not their will, but the absence of will. You sit in the dark, the credits rolling. That metal skeleton isn't a warning about what happens if machines think for themselves. It's a warning about what happens if they don't. The golem is still with you. It's in your pocket. It's in your search bar. It's in the device you're using to watch this very video. The only question is what words you're writing on its forehead, and whether you've thought about the water rising. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.